Good afternoon. I am standing in for Vincente. Someone told him he talked funny and he took that personal. So as I reviewed this material, As I reviewed this material, a story came to mind. And I'm sure most of you have heard it, but bear with me. A professional speaker was traveling the United States, and we're going to call him Earl Nightingale. And Earl preferred to travel by car, so he hires a driver, and I'm going to call him Rick, and he takes him across the United States for over a year. Well, Earl gives a talk 3 times a week, every week, for over a year, and at dinner towards the end of the year, Rick asked Earl, he said, "You know, I've heard this talk so many times, and all the questions so many times, and the answers so many times, I'm sure I can give this talk." So Earl says, "Fine, Rick, go ahead, you give the talk." And Rick goes through the presentation, not a problem, everything dead nuts. He gets to the question and answering period, and the first question that comes up, Rick hasn't heard it before, and so he says to the guy, he says, "Look, this question is so easy, I'm going to let my driver Earl in the back answer that for you." So when I looked at this material, I realized I've got about 50 Earls in this audience. So I won't be asking for questions at the end of the talk. Now, with that story told, I'm going to fly through these screens. Everybody has their best method of delivery of material. I'm not sure that the reclaimer is going to be the best piece of equipment for you, but I want to show you the options that the reclaimer will give you. Now, this is for front loaders. Many of you have that. Some have silos. The big thing about the silos is to take a look and see if you've got the best method for cleaning the silos out and also keep the material flowing. I love looking at these old pictures of old literature. The one thing that I can say has advanced is the controls. And so I'm going to the controls of the reclaimers first, also the cross-dredging excavators, which I'll show you a picture of that in a little bit. Everything that you've got here is basically advanced over the last 5 to 10 years, both in the sensing and the overload protection and the operator's panel. A standard operator's panel has been improved with the keyboard and the software programming. The manual and automatic mode pretty much is standard and stayed standard. The lights and the sirens that you use with automatic mode may have been an advancement in some people's system, but it's the standard piece. The big advancements have been in the safety devices. And I've tried to key in on the boom and also the chain, because that's what's going to be key in an operation an operation that's manless, that's without operator. The boom has a servo control for angular metering. So depending on the repose of your pile, you're able to make those fine-tune adjustments. I haven't figured out what an inclinometer is yet, but the menu is simple within itself. Basically, you have a general menu for the carriage and the boom, and then you go off into the F4 or data input for the programming during startup. There's more, another picture of the menu for the data input. My little dude there stockpiles in his own way, and I'm going to take a look at the outdoor stockpiling. The stacking by Mother Nature on the top screen left, the stacking by most brick plants in the U.S., and you can see that an automated stacking is going to offer you some flexibility, not only with the thinness, but also the cuts that you get of bringing the material to the to the primary feeder. This shows that you have a 180-degree adjustment on that stacking equipment. So that if you have, for instance, the middle screen shows 3 different blends, and you can make those, that can go as long or as short as necessary, depending on your location of your stockpile to your plant. A lot of people in Europe have located these in proximity to the grinding room. The big thing that you're gaining here, out of the 4 items listed there, I would say, is aging your shale material, if that's the key to your operation. This is going to show on the bottom left, dumping to a primary feeder or primary crusher, and the primary crusher then feeding 3 to 4 inch material to the stacker, the stacking of material, and the spray bar. And in the spray bar, one thing that comes to mind was a talk that John Sanders gave a few years back about pyrite and the treatment of pyrite. So I'm curious just to see the possibilities of treating pyrite at the stacking or at the stack. And this is a picture of the material coming to the primary feeders. So we've covered the basic from the stockpiling or the stacker, the thin layer, the independent piles, and the outside exposure. Reclaimers, I'm going to touch on the, I think I'm going to touch on the overhead reclaimer first, and that's a picture of it installed. The thing that I noticed first about this, besides the bad spelling, was the size of the carriage. The carriage on this unit is larger than for the side-mounted reclaimer. But the improvement on this swimming pool style stockpiling, is that you get a more uniform or a better cross-section from the dredging than you do from the side-mounted stock or reclaimer. And I'll show you a picture of how that would stack up later. What you will be able to do is you'll be able to calculate the losses or the void areas both with the excavator and the reclaimer. And the formulas are out there for you. Picture of a side mount reclaimer. What you're seeing in the back of the control there is the counterweights can be combined with concrete counterweights and steel counterweights. And here's the cross-section I mentioned earlier about the sidetrack reclaimer. Excuse me. You'll be able to see that it's taken a slightly different tack on the stockpile versus the dredging. The voids on that can be calculated and figured into, you can accommodate those voids with material during installation. Your best friend on a project like this is liable to be your civil engineer and your concrete supplier. Your on-site project manager is also going to be key to an operation like this. I'm going to jump here. This is a standard rail that's used in there. But the reason I say the on-site project engineer, because he's going to keep this thing so that you can be within a fraction of the wall, and you can see the importance of that. The drawing here is going to show you the location or how the shuttle sits above the bunkers, and this is going to give you a little better idea that you have options on your sizes of bunkers, depending on the blend you're looking for. The shuttle conveyor location is key, depending on your location, or your location is dependent on the back wall, the retaining wall. And so finding the right experienced people to do the installation could be key to that. This is another look at how close the shuttle is to the back wall to give you this kind of repose on the material. That's an idea of the scale. I didn't get the whole frame in here, but the simplicity of the machine is what I was going for here. I wanted to show basically 10 operating parts, and the next picture is the maintenance instructions, basically weekly, monthly, and every 5 months for oil and grease. It's shipped in sections for ease of shipping and for installation. They have wear guides for their chain operation. They have pawls that are basically there to keep the material off the side walls. So naturally the buckets aren't going to reach the side wall. You're using those pawls to locate the wall, as well as keep the material off the wall. They have a way, and once again, I've blown this up too large for this screen, but they have a way to use switches and sensors to locate yourself depending on the size bunker you have. Some bunkers wider than others, so you need a way to use the encoder to locate your starting and stopping on each wall. The simplicity of the buckets, once again, there's the pawl or the scraper, and the strip below is just a wear strip to keep buckets in good condition. The big plus that you're going to see is you're able to add moisture, and you're also able to give it some time with pressure. So the adding of water and time in your grinding process could improve the product you're delivering. The advances that you're seeing both in screening and in mixing in these days are going to become more and more evident, and you will probably be looking to do some transitioning between the grinding and the pug mill as far as the addition of water. This gives you an idea of where the operator stands. You'll also see the bottom left, or the bottom of the reclaimer there is the drive. They have one on each side for the wheels for the reclaimer, and the bar in front of that is another safety device. So in review, basically we're looking to get raw materials under controlled conditions. We're looking to buffer our raw material storage between extraction and extrusion. We're trying to enlarge volume mixing and homogenizing for blends, moisture, and temperature, and enhance your materials via the aging process.